Hi, everybody, and welcome to SA Rugby Magazine. I've got Gavin Rich with Rich Pickens. I'm Kevin Ferguson, the money man. Gav, we've got an 80% win rate this year. Not bad.
What was that? Last weekend, because you were away last week, so we didn't do the show. But that weekend when the Stormers played against Glasgow,
I called that.
you did call that, and Connacht against the Lions, we called that as well. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to think of what else happened that weekend. I mean, I don't think anybody backs the Sharks to beat anybody these days. They lost to Edinburgh, and who was the other? Oh, the Bulls. The Bulls, they beat the Dragons, but not by much, if I remember correctly. Or was it the Ospreys? Yeah, anyway.
The Ospreys.
Yeah. Anyway.
You know, it's we're in the business end of the season.
Scarlets. No, it was Scarlets. They won.
Okay.
They won by 3 points against Scarlets. But I think we also sort of backed. We there were a few games in that weekend where we decided not to put money on.
Well, we're sensible guys.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We're down to the business end. And certainly, you know, it's the games straight up. What you've got to look at is Ulster versus Stormers. Now, Ulster are sitting 8th, and Connacht are breathing down their necks. Ulster could get knocked out of 8th if the Stormers win. Give me your take on that game.
Well, Connacht, I'm right in saying Connacht to play Munster this weekend. I mean, they've got a big derby. So if they win that game, they're at home. If they win that game, then if the Stormers win against Ulster, Ulster will definitely drop out of the top 8. Look, it's actually this the way the season's unravelling. It's very similar to the way things are unravelling in English football at the moment. In the sense that you never know which teams are focusing on the cup competition or the European Cup competition. For instance, when I talk about the English,
well, I would say that Chelsea's focusing on the cup because they've lost 5 in a row.
No, Chelsea. But I'm thinking more of Aston Villa last week going in very under strength in their game against who did they play? Yeah, they went. Oh, West Ham got very upset. West Ham supporters are right to be upset because obviously there's that relegation battle, and Aston Villa went in with a second string team against Spurs and lost. And as you know, Spurs have been having a horrible season, and it was almost as if they gave them a chance by resting players because they're between the Europa. They're playing a Europa semi-final at the moment. So to get back to rugby, there's obviously Leinster are now in the Champions Cup final, so their focus is going to be big on the Champions Cup, and Ulster are now in the Challenge Cup final, which is only in 2 weeks' time. So they've got 2 routes into next year's. Because remember, there's 2 things that everybody's playing for at this time of the year in the URC. There's a playoff place, a URC playoff place, but also even more important, because of the financial implications, is a place in the Champions Cup. And if you win the Challenge Cup, as the Sharks discovered 2 years ago, you then qualify for the next season's Champions Cup. So Ulster have 2 routes to the Champions Cup. They can win the Challenge Cup, or they can finish in the top 8 of the URC. The Ulster haven't won a trophy since 2006. That's 20 years. So it's possible that Ulster have more of an eye at the moment on that, because it's more likely they're going to win the Challenge Cup. They play Montpellier in the final at a neutral venue. The French teams don't have as much of an advantage when they play at a neutral venue as they do when they play at home, and they have the French TV directors being quite selective about what they play, what they replay. And also what gave me an indication of how Ulster are thinking was 2 weeks ago. The last time they played in the URC, they played against Munster, which is a big derby game for them, and they went in with an understrength team. So clearly the EPCR competition is looming large for them. It's one of the things that they're really focusing on. So that directs my thinking a little bit towards tomorrow night's game. Is everybody's talking about how desperate Ulster are. I just think that when it comes to choosing players who might be not quite completely fit, the coach will probably rest them in preparation for for the final in Spain in a couple of weeks' time. So to me, that gives the Stormers an edge. They had a rest last week. They don't have any other competition to worry about. They're not in the Champions Cup. They're not in the Challenge Cup. And they had a very good momentum building win against Glasgow a couple of weeks ago, and that's a big breakthrough win for them because they haven't beaten Glasgow since the first season of the URC. The only factor that counts against the Stormers, in my view, is the 4G pitch. Ravenshill is a 4G pitch, and the Stormers have a horrible record on 4G pitches. We spoke to the Stormers camp this week through their forwards coach, Rito Shangwani, and he's quite confident based on the fact that their form on 4G pitches has improved. They beat Stade Francais on a 4G pitch last year. The last time they were in Connacht at Galway to play against Connacht, they won on a 4G pitch. So they've gained a little bit of confidence on 4G pitches, but their good record overseas this year hasn't been on 4G pitches. Limerick, apparently. Look, I haven't travelled over there for a long time, so I'm not completely sure which is a 4G pitch and not. But from what I understand, most of that, remember they had that 5-game winning sequence overseas. Most of that 5-game winning sequence was on grass. So that 4G pitch is the only reason why I might have a little bit of doubt about the Stormers, but I've got a feeling they're going to win on Friday night.
Maybe we're lucky it's not a 5G.
Talking about Ulster as well, they also have injuries. In that very good win against Exeter last week, they lost. They're already without Rob Balakoon, their wing. He got injured in playing for Ireland in the Six Nations, and he was a revelation for Ireland in the Six Nations, and he was very much one of their mainstays during their run of wins earlier in the season. So Balakoon isn't there. Jacob Stockdale, their other Ireland wing, is not there. He was injured last week, and also out with a hamstring apparently is Stuart McCloskey. And he's huge for them. He's a bit like Andre Esterhuizen is for the Sharks. If Andre Esterhuizen isn't there, you can halve the Sharks' chances. So to me it points to a Stormers win. And what do the bookies say?
They agree with you. They've got the Stormers favoured outright 1.63.
Okay.
And Ulster 2.6. Which simply means if you put $100 on the Stormers, you get 163 back.
Okay.
So they're favourites, and the handicap spread is 3.5, minus 3.5 for the Stormers.
Okay, so the Stormers have to win by more than 4.
4 more.
I mean, to beat the bookies. Yeah.
Not by more than 4. 4 or more.
4 or more. Okay. I would think that the Stormers. I think the Stormers are going to win by about 8 or 9. I've got a feeling it's going to be one of those games. I think the Stormers as forwards will systematically sort of take more control as the game goes on. We might the dangerous period of the game might be the first half. Ulster, if they start quickly, they could put the Stormers under a lot of pressure. But I've just got a feeling that the Stormers will have the depth on the bench, and grind out a win.
They're not playing in Cape Town, so they won't have that fear of entertaining people, will they?
Well, exactly. No, they've got a much. If you look at their record this year, their record away from Cape Town is better than it is in Cape Town. Certainly when it comes to quality of performance. So I'm discounting that game, that horrible game they played at the Twickenham Stoop before Christmas, where. Was it before Christmas or was it after Christmas? No, it was after Christmas. It was in January. They played at Twickenham Stoop against the Harlequins, and they sent an understrength team for that game, and they got done by 60 points. That was, I think, that the Stormers just got caught out in that game. But otherwise, every other overseas game that they've played, they've been very good. Because, let's face it, the one that they lost, the overseas game that they've lost, was that Champions Cup round of 16 game against Toulon, and they effectively won that game. I mean, if the French TV directors had the right angle, I think that final try would have been awarded, and they would have won that game. So the Stormers have been good overseas. And Dobbo spoke, the director of rugby, John Dobson, spoke before the Glasgow game about getting a more cold-blooded and ruthless attitude, and they took that onto the field against Glasgow. It worked for them, and I don't think they're stupid enough to eschew that approach. I think they're going to retain that approach in this game. So I think that I expect the Stormers to outmuscle Ulster and win by about 8.
Yeah, my advice is to go in circumspect. Say 750. Take the points minus 3.5 against the Stormers. Mm-hmm. So that means that they start the game 0. Ulster 0 and then minus 3.5 points, and they should win by 6 or 7 points.
The Stormers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well.
Yeah. No. I think we're in agreement on that. So I think it will be a Stormers win, and if it is a Stormers win, then their chances of finishing top of the log are really good because they play. I know they play Cardiff in the last game. I think it's another 4G pitch as well.
It is. Yeah.
I think that. I just think that they're a better team than Cardiff. So although they don't have a good record there, but even if they don't, because Glasgow also have 2 tough final games. They play Cardiff and they play Ulster as well. So Leinster dropping points in their last game by losing to Benetton has also opened up the way for the Stormers a bit. So that's a secondary conversation. The Stormers' chance of finishing top. That's what they're playing for at the moment. I think they've got a good chance of making it.
Yeah, folks, you hear it here first. Take the Stormers. They should crown themselves in glory. Battle hardened. They should not be entertaining their crowd, so they'll play a proper rugby game.
Yeah.
All roads lead to Stormers' victory.
It is tough in Ulster on a Friday. I mean, Dobbo's always said to me, he said, you've got to understand how tough it is to play. And he's always been worried about this game. But I think the Stormers have been, in fact, the South African teams generally have been helped by Leinster and Ulster making it into the Bilbao. Is that how you pronounce it?
Bilbo Baggins.
No, the game in Spain, the finals weekend in Spain. I
Bilbao.
think. In fact, Bilbao. That's it. Bilbao's got
Bilbao Baggins.
Bilbao Baggins. So they're going to go to Bilbao Baggins, and I think if you read the Irish media this week, and they're talking when they're writing about injuries and potential changes to the team, a lot of the focus isn't on the Stormers. It's on whether the guys are going to be ready for the final.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that in itself says a lot. Eh?
Yeah.
Now let's move on to a game that should have absolutely no interest whatsoever.
Are you talking about the Sharks?
No, I haven't got there yet.
Okay.
There's a worse game than that. But the Bulls Zebre.
Yeah. Okay. 40 points, 30 points.
Yeah, the bookies have them at 20. They've got the Bulls favored by minus 29.5, meaning they got to win by 30.
I'd go for that.
Probably will, but it could be one of those niggly games.
It could be one of those games because the Bulls. Okay, so what the Bulls are doing is also what the Stormers have been doing. I mean, the Bulls. What was that game? Okay, it was Scarlets. In that game against the Scarlets, they still showed signs of wanting to run more than they should. I mean, if the Bulls just played with forwards and they went direct, they would be challenging for top spot on the URC log. So the Bulls need to actually just get their game right. If they have their game right against Zebre and they do that old subdue and penetrate thing and they soften them up with their forwards before trying to be too fancy, then I think 30 points win is likely.
The Bulls will be looking for what's the Bulls' execution here on this? It's to go out.
They need to get 5 points.
Get the 5 points.
That's the problem. That's a problem, though, because sometimes teams think when they need to get 4 tries that we need to play this attacking game. You don't need to do that. You grind the guards down. You can score those 2 tries. At Loftus, you can score those last 2 tries. If you've only scored 2 at the 70-minute mark, there's still a very good chance you'll do it in the last 10 minutes because of the altitude. So,
the thing is the Cardiff are ahead of them, the Bulls, and they've got a tough game against Glasgow, right?
Yeah.
So the Bulls could jump into
into the top 4.
Into the top 4. Well, yeah, they could if they get 5 points.
Yes.
I mean,
it all depends on other results. And remember that they're finishing off against Benetton, who they should also beat. So
Touche.
they've got a dream run in
Yeah.
compared to, for instance, the Stormers who played 2 away games. Although, as I say, maybe it's better for the Stormers to be away.
But I think this game gets messy early. The Bulls have the bonus point at halftime that the game gets into the 50s, that they win by 50.
I'd expect. I think the 30 points, or 29.5 points is the bookies have done their homework there.
So then we have the Sharks.
Yeah, Sharks against
Benetton.
Benetton. Benetton have won in Durban. Okay, so firstly, the Sharks have got nothing to play for other than pride, and for those players that play, the Springboks that play for them, that must be quite.
Aren't you sick of that phrase? They
What's
got
that?
nothing to play for but pride.
Well, it's only really. I mean, they still thought that they had a sort of outside chance when they played against Edinburgh. So it's only really now that they are definitely out of the.
We
of
found
the race.
ourselves 2 games out in the season.
Ridiculous.
Talking about the most stacked team in the league,
The most financially potent union in the league. You're right.
yeah.
Well, outside of Leinster.
And you're saying
Glasgow.
the Sharks are playing for pride. They don't have any pride, or they wouldn't be in this fucking situation to begin with.
Yeah, well, there's definitely like a lot wrong with the Sharks, and I've spoken about it before. And to me, the problem is from the top. There's not enough real rugby acumen or
Well, let's look at the
know-how
Sharks.
in there. I mean, they
They're
put other things. They put marketing first. I mean, the Sharks.
Isn't their marketing person based in Cape Town? Isn't everybody based in Cape Town?
Well, their CEO and their marketing guy are based here. The Sharks are a problem, and one of the reasons they're a problem is that they've. Okay, so it started for me, and I mean, I've said this before. I'm sure I've said it here. And I've said it. It started for me when you sort of you're pointing people into a position, and it's almost like a round peg for a square hole. That old saying. But it started in 2013 when they appointed a guy who had been a rugby player only and never been a CEO. And you would know that you need to be a CEO or have some kind of business to be a CEO. John Smith went from being a player to being a CEO at the Sharks. And the rot started then. It wasn't. I'm not saying it was John Smith's fault, but the people who appointed him weren't thinking very clearly. I mean, that's what I'm saying, is that there's not a lot of rugby intelligence. And to be honest,
they tried to give him the training.
in this era where the owners are where rich owners are coming in and starting to take over our rugby. I mean, you do get more of that. You will get more of that. I mean, we see it in the UK and the soccer leagues there. I mean, there's some owners that just know nothing, so you end up with this turnover. Chelsea's an example.
Yeah.
They're also a very rich club. In fact, Chelsea and the Sharks are very similar, in my opinion. They've got a lot of money, but the people running the show don't know too much about the sport that they're administering.
No, and it's more ego-driven. It's more internally ego.
It is, and the contracting's done on ego as well.
Yeah.
So we've got so many Springboks. Oh, but in this day and age, having too many Springboks doesn't actually suit you, because
If you look at a guy like John Dobson,
because they're never available.
who's created Springboks.
Yeah.
You're talking about 2 different types.
And Jake, for all his faults, supposed faults. I mean, I'm not sure if I agree with a lot of the criticisms of Jake, but Jake.
Which ones don't you agree
with? Jake created a lot of Springboks as well. The ones that I wouldn't agree with. I mean, I just think that Jake is a good coach, and he may not be liked by his players necessarily, but. Sometimes,
stop telling them to get their haircut.
Sometimes there's too much. Rugby's not a touchy-feely business where we've got to sort of have this cuddly uncle as our boss.
No, I get that,
yeah.
but you also can't have a prick.
No, well, that's true too. But Jake, let's be honest. I mean, so let's talk about the Sharks. The Sharks are the richest union club in South Africa. In the 5 years of the URC, the highest they've come is 3rd, which was last year under John Plumtree, who they then got rid of. So they came 3rd last year, and their highest finish outside of that was 5th in the very first year under Sean Everett. Otherwise, 3 times in 5 starts, they finished outside of the top 8 in the URC, and they've got the most Springboks. They've got the most marquee players. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just unacceptable.
Yeah, but Gav, as we know, Springboks don't mean they're playing.
Yes, that's true. But then the contracting department should be, the recruitment department should be under pressure because then they're recruiting wrong.
Well, of course
I
they
mean,
are.
because
you can't
surely you recruit for your team to be successful, not to say, well, I've got so many Springboks. Look at me. I mean, I was on a media conference. I was on a media conference with the Sharks a couple of weeks ago, or maybe a month or two ago, where they were talking about one of their big things is we're apparently the second best sports team in the world when it comes to social media. You know what? In 1990, when Natal won the Currie Cup, there was a big ticker tape parade in Durban. Everybody turned out. When they had an open bus, Craig Jamieson and Ian McIntosh and everything. Nobody holds ticker tape parades because you won Twitter or you won X. And that's the problem with the Sharks, is that they're looking at things that aren't about the rugby. It's like Rassie Erasmus said when he took over at the Springboks, and he said to his players, he said, make rugby the main thing. The Sharks need to make rugby the main thing, and they're not at the moment. They should actually, the way the Sharks are going at the moment, they should almost include a band, a musical band, is on their in amongst their personnel or their staff, because that's how they sell tickets in Durban these days, is to have a concert. I'm told that some games there you sort of have 26,000 tickets sold, but like that not that many people pitch up. A lot of the people are on the outside fields waiting for the concert.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Smarter men than me know what they're doing. Yeah.
You should go to Durban and become the CEO.
No,
because you probably you've got like a little bit of rugby, a little bit. I mean, I better not flatter you too much, but you've got some rugby smarts.
Well, but
I'm not sure that they.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that wonderful compliment, because I don't get very many from you. And the first and foremost thing about a CEO is, like, when you hire a guy like John Smith, there's 500 pages of a budget. Go through it. What's John Smith or anybody?
That's why I say it's not John Smith. I think we had John here. If we ever interviewed John Smith, he'd probably be the first person.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you hire a CEO, you hire someone that's got a successful track record in business, in building businesses. Because that's the main thing.
Yeah.
And then if they have announced in terms of liking rugby or having a camaraderie towards the sport, then that's even better. But they're a disaster.
Even Gary. When I say Gary Teichmann, very nice guy.
Beautiful.
Also a Springbok, also ex-Springbok captain. Even he, I think, would admit because then he was brought in as John Smith's replacement. Again, go for the big rugby game. I think Gary's eyes were sort of like came out of his head when he first arrived there, because he suddenly realised that this being a CEO is very different to what he thought he was, and I was told by the coaching staff at that time. Because Gary hadn't been involved in rugby since he'd finished playing.
Well, the problem
he wanted to know from the coaching staff why there were so many of them. For a start, because in the modern way, it's like you have a forwards coach and a backs coach, and you have a fitness coach, and you have a defence coach and an attack coach, and you have all these different coaches. And apparently, I think it was Gary Golder, one of those guys who told me the story when he was coach, that Gary wanted to know. Like, he said, in my day, we just had Ian McIntosh.
Yeah,
and which is true. When he was captaining the Sharks, and even at the Springbok level, I mean, there was Nick Mallett and there was Alan Solomons as his assistant coach, and I think Heineke Meyer was involved as the forwards coach, and that was it. You didn't have the massive management teams.
The problem with all these so-called experts is they have to be impactful. I mean, I played rugby in Canada, and we had someone come in and take over the representative side I played on, an Australian guy, and I learned more from him in 1 year of playing than I'd learned from any coach for 6 years of playing before that. Yeah. So as long as you have the right impactful people coming in. But the Sharks are a joke.
This is the problem. They don't have they get their appointments right. I wrote a column the other day because everybody says Rory Duncan's coming in as the chief of staff. Okay, so for a start, we're not sure whether that means CEO or it means director of rugby.
That's a vague term.
And then people ask me, they say, well, what do you think of Rory? And I say, well, he's only really worked at places like the Cheetahs, and the Cheetahs aren't doing very well at the moment. I said he may be a very astute appointment, but what I do know is that I don't trust the Sharks when it comes to appointments, because they usually get their appointments wrong. If you look at it, I mean, they've had a revolving door of coaches.
But
Director of rugby, we'll bring in Neil Powell. Neil Powell Neil Powell's a great guy. He's a great coach at sevens level. But they suddenly just decided, okay, initially they were bringing him in as the defence coach, and then suddenly overnight, because they lost a game, I think it was to the Bulls, suddenly there was this knee-jerk reaction needed because the fans were unhappy, and they decided, okay, well, we can't stick with Sean Everett just as the head coach. We're now going to bring in somebody ahead of him, above him. His name will be... Why don't we just call Neil Powell? Because Neil Powell's coached the Blitz box. But sevens rugby is very different to 15-man rugby. I'll never forget that. It was on a Sunday morning. I phoned the then CEO, Kutsia, I forgot Ed Kutsia, and I said, "What's going on here?" And he says, "Well, we've realised that Sean Everett's too nice a guy, and we need a good cop and a bad cop. So we've decided that Neil Powell will be a good bad cop. So we're bringing him in to be the bad cop." And that's not a very scientific way of making appointments.
No, it's not.
Let's talk about the Sharks. Okay, the Sharks are playing Benetton at the weekend.
Yeah,
And what did the bookies say? They say that
the bookies say that the Sharks are favoured by 13 and a half.
I thought that's probably about right, but I'd be wary of putting any money on the Sharks. They have lost to Benetton before. They lost to Benetton 2 seasons ago, so in Durban, and they've lost to Benetton over there as well. So and Benetton, if they decide that they want to play and they want to bring their full strength team, then Benetton are a difficult team to beat. So that would be a game that I think 13 points is probably about right, but. I don't know. It's just I don't trust the Sharks.
But my dad used to say this to me: "Who gives a toss?" Most of the time,
when it comes to the Sharks at the moment, that's probably true because they're just not in the competition anymore.
Yeah, I'm not even looking to bet on it.
You don't want to waste your time and watch the game.
No, the only bet I've got so far is the Stormers to beat Ulster by 4 more. Okay. So let's get on to the Lions Leinster. That's an interesting game because you get Leinster just now qualified for the final.
Yeah.
And that's got to be a big focus for Leinster, right?
Yeah.
And they sitting fourth in the log. So it's not as if this game doesn't have meaning because they'll want to play a home semi-final, won't they? Everybody wants
They'll want to play, but I think that their main focus is the Champions Cup, though. I mean, they won the URC last year. I think they proved that they can win it. They will want to play a home semi-final. Okay, so the question mark I have against Leinster at the moment is that they've changed their formula. Remember, they used to at this stage of the season when they were playing URC, they would play a completely second-string team because they were saving themselves for the Champions Cup. After losing to, I think it was Northampton Saints in last year's semi-final in the Champions Cup, they decided this isn't the way to go anymore. We're going to play our full-strength team like the whole time, and they've been doing that. That team that lost to Benetton 2 or 3 weeks ago was actually pretty much the Leinster full-strength team. So now we've got to a point where Leo Cullen, their coach, must be looking at it and thinking to himself, we can't carry on playing the full-strength team from now until the end of June, which is when the URC finishes. Yeah. So at some stage they're going to have to play their second stringers again, and give their top line players a rest.
Well,
particularly given that in 2 weeks' time they're going to.
Gab, I would say this is the perfect weekend to do it.
Yes,
because they'll feel that they'll feel that they can put an understrength team out against the Lions and still win and compete.
Yes,
so it's not maybe it's not about the 4 points for them, but it'll be about the bonus point. Yeah. And they should be able to get a bonus point playing with the Lions, not give them 1 point. Look, it's whether you finish 4th or 5th, does it really matter?
Well, it does because if you're 5th, you have to travel. Yeah. And let's say Leinster finish 4th and the Lions finish 5th, and Leinster have to host the Lions in the semi-final. That's a gimme for Leinster because then they will be at full strength. But if they have to come to Joburg for a quarterfinal, I mean, then it's a very different game. So it is a big game for Leinster too. It's just that, they managed to get through the semi-final last week. They're in the final for the 4th time in 5 years, or third time in 4 years.
They came under pressure
right at the end of that game.
from Toulon, yeah?
I mean, I always thought that they were cruising it before that, even though they had yellow
They-
card.
yeah.
Remember they had that yellow card at half.
had
They were
two
down
days.
to 13
They
at
were
one
down
stage.
to 13 men, and they held on. That was a turning point. in the
They
game for me.
handled that very well.
Yeah.
So look, I mean, I don't expect the Lions to win.
Yeah.
I don't expect the Lions to win. I think there are a lot of people who do. I mean, there are a lot of South Africans who hope that they will.
Well, I don't.
But I think that's that. I think people are betting with their hearts and not their heads. If that's the case, I think it's going to be a good game. I think the Lions will push them.
I will.
But it will be a very big surprise for me if depending on what team the Leinster put out.
I'll be very surprised if they put out a full strength team,
Okay.
plus 10.5, and hope that they can weave some magic.
So you're expecting the Lions to win. You're saying that you're taking them to win.
No, I'm taking them to not
lose by more,
11 or
10,
more.
Okay, 11 or more. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I would go with you on that.
You coming with me?
Yeah. I would
Who's
also
coming
say-
with me?
I would say that.
Are you Jerry Maguire and
I
me?
would say that 11 and a half. I would say that the Lions will push. If Leinster aren't at full strength and they're a little bit deflected by the Champions Cup, I think that there's a good chance that Lions will come within. I don't think that they'll win, but they'll come within 11 or 12 points of
I hope so.
of Leinster.
Anyway, folks.
And maybe pick up a bonus point.
Folks, I always love having Gavin in here. Gav, I had a great trip to London last
I
week.
did ask.
It was fantastic.
Good,
Went to Buckingham Palace. Went to the Tower of London.
Lovely.
Did all the.
How many times do you need to go to Buckingham Palace before you get tired of it?
This was the only time I went, in all the time I stayed there.
Oh, okay.
I was actually I was a tourist, and was like it was so much fun. Anyway, I came back relaxed, ready for the show.
Okay, good.
Because you've upped your game, and I can't keep you can't keep carrying me.
Doing that. I think.
I just can't allow. In my good conscience, I can't.
I think you jet lagged a bit, and you maybe didn't sleep properly last night.
No, I didn't sleep properly last
Yeah,
night. I had to
I
take a
think-
dormant calm.
yeah.
I'm basically falling asleep in this interview right now. But we've covered it. My surefire bet is the Stormers to win by 4 or more. I also like the Lions to not lose by 11 or more.
Yeah.
The other 2 games I could not give a toss about.
Yeah. I think.
I think if you can take the Bulls, take them minus 29.5. I think they're going to put a biblical beating on Zebre.
Yeah.
And Sharks, I really have no opinion, which is more of an insult to
I'd want to know who Benetton are putting out in the field, and I'd want to know who the Sharks are putting onto the field.
But we've heard nothing from them all week.
Exactly.
They're a joke of an organization.
At the moment.
For the last 5 years, they've been a joke.
Since 2013. Yeah.
Okay,
They've
so
been struggling.
13 years.
Yeah.
Anyway, good luck to them and their fans and their loyal fan base. I feel you. I hear something needs to change there, and hopefully it will. But anyway, I want to thank you for coming in. It was always insightful to chat to you.
Thank you.
And
It's a pleasure being here.
folks, responsible gambling. You don't have to chase. Don't go chasing waterfalls. If you lose a bet, take it on the chin. Think about your next bet. Don't be pouring into the next bet alive or anything like that. Responsible gambling, folks. That's what we preach here. That's what we teach. We've got an 80% win record. Try and follow some of our advice if you want. You would be up serious cash if you had all year. But if you haven't, that's okay. You've got to make your own decisions, and that's part of growing up. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to our channel. Tell me I'm an idiot, or tell me anything. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But we love having you, and when I'm out and about, always love it when someone comes up and says, "Are you the money man?"
Do you know Gavin Rich?
Do you- Actually, yeah, that's the thing I get the most. Do you know Gav? Do you know that Gavin guy? Oh, such a dreamboat. Anyway, folks, thanks for tuning in, and good luck to the Stormers. Good luck to the Lions, and Bulls will destroy Zebre, and who cares about the Sharks?
Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
Cheers.
Thanks, guys.